Settle down, class, Miss Riki exclaimed, clapping her long, clawed hands together. Come now, it's time to learn about Earth. Her students collectively groaned at the thought of yet another planetary lesson, and she pressed her bright yellow lips together in response. It had been challenging for her, as an Amra, to adapt to teaching her R, who all learned exceptionally quickly through text, capable of reading multiple books simultaneously with her 2 sets of slit pupils and highly complex brains. Her racist council leaders currently preferred to keep humans at a distance. When they had first established contact, human delegates had disseminated information far and wide about the stunning 4-y dragon people of the stars, and the attention her people received made the council leaders uneasy. To be fair, they were all somewhat flattered by the admiration they garnered from the images of their kind, but the humans exhibited a level of eagerness that compelled the Zamra to interact with them at a notably slow and measured pace. Whether it was their smooth skin, head fronds, short, thick tails, or refined features, humans always seemed to be enamored with them. It was theorized that at one time, humans may have had their own dragon-like creatures on Earth that perished from an unknown illness, and the Zamra had dedicated years to studying the draconic images scattered across the blue and green marble of their world. This led many of their scholars to conclude that humans harbored an obsession with dragon-like beings and found themselves caught in the uncomfortable crosshairs of humanity at this current juncture. Miss Riki wished that the other beings of the stars before her shared the same sense of respect was lacking, and it seemed that the mixed classroom showed little regard for her teachings. It might also have been their age. She despised instructing adults. Isn't Earth's history merely fabricated? A young blue Yepple pondered, lazily balancing a digital stylus on her nose. I heard they all just reside in enormous gyms and are birthed in vats, a bright pink Optician scoffed. If they were born in vats, they wouldn't possess navels. This discussion is not about the origins of humans. It pertains to their world, Miss Ryaki remarked, her expression pretty, yet her wide nose wrinkling in annoyance. We will delve into human cultures and biology later during our studies on the cultures of the Cinderella Confederation. Another collective groan arose, prompting Miss Ryaki to place her hands on her round hips. Really now, this is intended to prepare you all for your future careers. How will you know what to anticipate when visiting other planets? I am certain you have all heard of the folly that preceded the Optician's visit to Earth, Miss Riki asserted, now crossing her arms. All the Optician in the classroom grimaced, recalling all too vividly the splash made by their initial pilots as they buried their craft into the soil of Earth. The same young Yoro, who had been balancing her stylus, snatched it off her nose when another of her peers spoke up, a male Yorel with fur resembling furlight. That won't change anything, though. They may be exercising their muscles on that ridiculous orbital platform, but their hearts remain too weak due to the lack of gravity, or even They might as well pressure suits while they frolic among the flowers, the blue female Yorel remarked with a grin directed at the male fanged Lay. Before Miss Riki could intervene to silence them, multiple Optician rose to their feet in outrage, the sudden exertion causing them to break into a sweat. "We do not require suits to be on Earth," shouted the pink male Optician, slamming his clawed hand onto the table they all shared. "We can earn our way through strength, just like the rest of you." A yellow female Optician confronted the blue female Yorel, stating, "All of us have been working out. Our entire base has been converted into gravity chambers to toughen ourselves. All you did was hide and mine asteroids throughout the entire war." The blue female Yorel retorted, leaning back in her seat with a smug expression. Miss Riki forcefully slammed her thick hands against her own table, causing her data slates to rattle and her mantle of jewelry to clink against her shoulders. That is enough. Sit down now. I will not tolerate this divisive discussion in my classroom. All the Yorel and Opticen observed as Miss Ricky's head fronds expanded and vibrated with her anger, prompting them to either lean forward in their seats or sit back down. Although the Zamra were a bookish race, they possessed the capability to attack the mind if sufficiently provoked. Miss Ricky cleared her throat, smoothing down the front of her teaching robes and readjusting her mantle of duty. The Car Lake, Poe, and Jin in the room exchanged awkward side glances, with the Jin appearing the most confused, as they were newcomers to the Cinder Confederation, the four-armed triangular beings. If the Opticen run too much, they risk heart failure. The headed race had been nearly annihilated during the war against the Darrier. Like others, they sought to retaliate against humans for barely preserving their culture, which had dwindled to a mere few million from the billions they once were at their peak. One of the more courageous individuals raised his hand, his eyes barely visible beneath the curved masks they all wore, as they only revealed their faces to their future or current spouses. So, Earth? Yes, Earth, Miss Riki said, turning to tap the data screen, which then came back to life. Earth is classified by many as a death world. Is that due to its dullness? The blue female Yorel interjected, prompting the males around her to roll their eyes. This time, Miss Riki spun around, her head fronds extended, and fixed the Yorel with a steely glare. Miss Myrick clapped her hands to her head, suddenly overwhelmed with dread. "Wait!" Myrick began to wail, her fingers digging into her fur as Miss Riki focused her will on the insolent Yorel. "Be quiet, Miss Myrick." Miss Riki said firmly over the cries of the Yorel, her draconic fronds trembling. Myrick was now writhing on the ground, crying out, "Okay, I'm sorry. Stop. Stop it." Miss Ricky's fronds gradually ceased their quivering and deflated, laying neatly against her head and neck as she surveyed the room. "Is there anyone else wishing to disrupt my class?" Many heads shook back and forth, with the Jinn wondering what they had gotten themselves into. Miss Riki cleared her throat, smoothing down her robes once more as she gestured toward the screen. As I mentioned, many classify Earth as a world characterized by death due to its exceptionally high gravity. The inhabitants and their culture are unique. Humans, as we are all aware, are an exceedingly militant race when compared to others, honing their skills for warfare by engaging in battles among themselves for thousands of years, with some speculating that this duration may be even longer. Their gravity has enabled them to develop extremely thick muscles, resulting in considerable strength. Those from the Confederation, currently training with humans, have observed that they tire much more quickly and cannot endure as long in combat trials compared to the humans. Humans who are presently training on other worlds, in accordance with the military exchange program, have made a mockery of their counterparts, dominating the training sessions with remarkable ease. Miss Riki remarked, tapping her fingers together while the data screen cycled through numerous images of humans tossing Yoro like sacks of grain or bending Zamra nearly in half during combat trials. While they are clever, they lack the focused intelligence that the rest of us possess. However, this should not lead one to underestimate humans. They are highly dangerous, predatory beings capable of rapid thought and making calculations on the move that even the Opticens struggle with. They may lag behind in raw intelligence, but there is a belief that this gap may not persist for long. A juniper-colored Yorel raised his hand, and Miss Riki pointed to him. Then why haven't humans taken over the Confederation if they are so powerful? Why not do what the dear Mir attempted? It is a valid question, Miss Riki responded with a smile, then brought the pad of her middle finger to her thumb. The screen transitions to a different set of slides depicting humans laughing and smiling alongside individuals from various races. They are an exceptionally sociable species and seem to have a fondness for us, thus not displaying overt aggression. Some humans have coined the term take and give in reference to their interactions with them, and they only exhibit outward aggression if provoked initially. A female jinn raised her uppermost arm, waving her small hand. Is that the reason the Zra have a non-social engagement clause with humans? Miss Ricky blushed, having not considered that the jinn were even aware of this. She cleared her throat before responding, intertwining her fingers. Ah, well, when we first established contact, the humans were captivated by us, and our council of leadership was concerned, as I heard they were charming too many Zra women, Akarik remarked, raising his scaly brows and shaking his head slightly in amusement. Half of the landing party deviated from their mission and have yet to depart from Earth, which led to panic among Zamra leadership due to the social complications they were causing. Yes, Miss Ricky replied succinctly, shaking her head as her tendrils began to flare slightly in embarrassment. Our council of leadership feared it would result in social death. How intriguing, the female jinn murmured, tilting her masked face slightly. So, a death world in more than one sense, due to the sociability of humans. Miss Riki concurred, slowly tapping through more slides to allow the students to observe. The more DFAC scholars theorize that humans resemble an infection, infiltrating all levels of society among the races of the stars. However, despite this perspective, all those who encounter humans seem to regard them as pleasant companions, regardless of the appearance of other races. Just last week, one of the gelatinous Orger formed a friendship with a human, which significantly uplifted the entire race from an emotional downturn. A point was raised. Aren't the Orger merely a species of intelligent jelly-like entities residing in suits? I have heard that they possess tentacles that function as small nodes within their suits to facilitate movement. They are a highly advanced group of invertebrates that were only recently discovered on their planet. Naturally, there was little desire to collaborate with beings resembling slime with tentacles, leading to their ostracism by the broader races. However, humanity finds them intriguing, Miss Rinky reflected, before redirecting her attention to the data screen. Aside from its gravity, Earth features multiple biodomes, as humans do not attempt to manipulate the planet's weather or temperature. As you are all aware, the Confederation generally practices climate control to ensure that all planets are comfortable for visitors. In contrast, Earth does not follow this approach. Miss Ricky gestured towards the screen, which zoomed in on a flat image of Earth and its temperature zones. Some regions can experience temperatures as low as 35 degrees Celsius, or 135 Fahrenheit in human terms, while it has also been recorded to reach as high as 34 degrees Celsius, or 134 Fahrenheit. They do not inhabit those areas, do they? A male Yelpul inquired, gazing at the screen in bewilderment. And why would they permit such temperatures? I cannot explain why they allow it, Miss Ricky replied with a shrug, speaking in a matter-of-fact manner, but some of them do indeed reside in such regions or choose to vacation there for the experience. The challenge of enduring it is not a recent occurrence, as humanity has been battling the elements of their planet for almost as long as they have been in conflict with one another. However, Ein inquired, not even attempting to raise his hand. Miss Ricky momentarily pursed her full lips before shrugging once more. Perhaps it is because they dominate all other predators on their planet and perceive the planet itself as their final frontier. This is reflected in their sports, many of which are prohibited for other members of the Confederation to attempt. What types of sports? A female jinn exclaimed in enthusiasm, nearly rising from her seat. Is there wrestling? Miss Rinky chuckled politely, quickly tapping her fingers against her palm to transition to human sports. Oh, yes, there are quite a few that are entirely permitted by the Confederation, but extreme human sports are banned due to their fatality rates. They have sports where participants can die? The djinn asked again. Indeed, quite a number actually. Humans are known to ascend or plunge into caves where they risk death from crushing or suffocation, scale rock faces without safety gear, ride tumultuous waves on mere wooden planks, tame ferocious creatures with only a rope for support, and race in combustion engine vehicles. They leap from great heights with nothing but a sheet of nylon to break their fall, Miss Rinky enumerated, displaying slides of each sport until she reached a slide depicting two bloodied humans in a netted ring. There is even extreme sparring, where both male and female humans strike each other until either time runs out or they can no longer continue, or one of them being rendered unconscious. Miss Ricky grimaced at the sight of a female human profusely bleeding from the face, then shifted to another slide. Humans may be attempting to defy death itself, running out of enemies that are insurmountable. You mentioned they ride great beasts? Ao inquired, her hair shimmering gold in the classroom light. What type of beasts? I thought all planets rid themselves of large predators for safety reasons. Miss Ricky actually laughed. Yes, that is true, but humans do not adhere to such regulations. They believe it is, how did they phrase it? Unfair. The Poe scoffed. What is unfair about evolution? We Poe have eradicated every predator and creature larger than a boom, ensuring our planet is entirely secure. Why even keep large animals alive in cages? Cages? Miss Ricky asked, raising her brow ridges. You think humans confine the large animals in cages? The Poe blanched, her fully yellow eyes widened. They're in cages, right? Miss Ricky quickly tapped her thumb to display the correct slide, and the class recoiled. What is that? A djinn called out, standing up from his chair and taking a few steps back. This is known as a grizzly bear, a predator on Earth that still roams freely in the forests, Miss Ricky stated with a smirk, observing the fear in their eyes as their bravado dissipated. It can reach speeds exceeding 35 miles per hour in Earth measurements, or 6.5 obex. This implies that it can even pursue and capture Ural, running at their maximum speed. All of the Yael in the room appeared stunned, if not outright horrified. Miss Rinky continued, They possess a bite strength capable of cleaving straight through human bones, and we all know how resilient those are. This animal is known as a lion, capable of reaching speeds of up to 37 miles per hour in short bursts during ambushes, and possesses a bite strength comparable to that of a grizzly bear. Additionally, there is the cheetah, a terrestrial predator that can achieve speeds of up to 80 miles per hour, although its bite force is weaker than that of the lion. Miss Ricky continued to browse through the major land predators of Earth, as well as those that inhabit the waters, including killer whales, sharks, and barracuda in the sea, alongside wolves, hippos, and tigers on land, all roaming freely without cages or gates. This does not take into account the various animals that humans keep as pets, which include both canine and feline predators. One might wonder why these creatures are allowed to exist, as they are often perceived as monsters. A distressed male Ural exclaimed, his tawny yellow fur trembling. What is the purpose of this? Miss Ricky chuckled softly, shaking her head, still incredulous that humans had conveyed this notion to her directly. They maintain these creatures in their environment because, without them, nature would be too dull. The room fell silent for a moment as her words resonated, while Miss Ricky nodded in agreement. Yes, I understand your thoughts, and they genuinely believe this. They genuinely believe this. Miss Ricky then turned around, her thick tail nudging the desk slightly, before returning with a new data chip, which she plugged into the data screen. As the saying goes, nature would lose its pizzazz, that extra spark that makes it uniquely special. She quickly tapped her finger on the screen, displaying numerous images of prowling Earth predators from both land and sea. Humans are convinced that their world is healthier with these predators present. It is, without a doubt, the perplexing aspect of human culture has confounded the Confederation ever since their integration with humans. Not only do humans strive to preserve their world in its most untouched state, but they also endeavor to maintain the natural order, even if it results in the demise of their own species at the mercy of these creatures. Humans have been pursued, killed, and consumed by these terrestrial predators, with incidents occurring as recently as last week when a human hiker was chased and killed by a black bear. Subsequently, all the black bears were exterminated. A female Carlin inquired, raising her hands with palms facing up, if animals that kill a human and demonstrate a threat are removed. Yes, Miss Ricky affirmed with a nod. Indeed, they located the bear and eliminated it, but only that particular bear. That seems illogical, the Carlin murmured, tapping her chin thoughtfully. What is the purpose of merely sacrificing oneself to these creatures? Miss Ricky exhaled, contemplating as she tapped on the data screen with a claw. I believe they are as integral to their planet as everything else. I am among the few who hold the view that humans derive strength from their planet. Those who share my perspective have concluded that humans must maintain their planet in as natural a state as possible to continue being as resilient as they are. With threats lurking around every bush and blade of grass, they do not become complacent. Sinister predators lie in wait beneath the waves, and they do not presume safety even while standing in a stream. If a human falls victim to the ancient predators, they are regarded as weak, and the planet itself has effectively filtered them out, despite the adverse weather and gravity conditions being formidable and significant. The designation of Earth as a death planet is significantly influenced by the existence of these terrestrial predators, which reinforces the severity of the warning label. Miss Ricky directed her attention to several of the y'alls seated at the front of her classroom. You y'all have eradicated all of your ancient predators, both old and new, and this will have lasting consequences for you. You will come to believe that you are secure and protected on Earth, failing to recognize the wolves that are stealthily approaching you. Wolves? A Yorel inquired, prompting Miss Rinky to tap her pinky finger against the robust muscle of her thumb, retrieving an article from the Confederation newsletter. Wolves. 3 Yorel were discovered deceased due to a wolf attack after they went camping without a guide. 3 engineers were also found mauled to death within their tent, partially consumed, Miss Rinky stated with a serious tone, gesturing towards the crime scene photographs that depicted the dismembered victims. They disregarded the established rules and warnings, opting not to employ a human guide, and mistakenly believed themselves too sophisticated to fall victim to a mere animal. This incident is merely the latest in a series of events, and the Confederation remains uncertain about whether to prohibit other races from venturing beyond military installations or major urban areas. A female Yapal gazed at the images in sheer horror, her pawed hands moving towards her cheeks. They were eaten, Miss Rinky remarked in a subdued voice. This occurrence transpired just days after a Poe narrowly escaped being mauled by a creature known only as a honey badger while training on the landmass referred to as Africa. He had wandered too far off the designated path and mistakenly identified the animal as a cat. A Jinn raised her hand, looking up at the screen as Miss Ricky displayed additional images. Of the 2 creatures positioned side by side, he barely survived. The creature had severed several critical arteries in their legs, necessitating the humans to apply pressure wraps to prevent him from bleeding out in the grasslands. Miss Ricky responded, then crossed her arms beneath her chest. Humans flourish in these perilous conditions, which is why all of you must exercise extreme caution if you find yourselves on Earth. You are not constructed like humans and lack their finely tuned minds. There are even rumors suggesting that humans possess a sixth sense, an inherent ability to sense danger without ever seeing the source of their threat. We believe this ability was instilled in them by other creatures. Mira turned her head towards Miss Ricky, having been focused on the slide depicting an earth-dwelling wolf. Other creatures, which we believe the humans attempted to exterminate but failed to do so, are embedded in their folklore as entities that even instill fear in humans and are seldom seen, hiding in the deep woods or far underground. Miss Ricky stated as she transitioned to a slide featuring a terrifying creature adorned with gnarled horns on its skull and grotesque, dangling limbs. These beings are known as skinwalkers, a terrifying biological monstrosity that, while initially thought to be fictional, has been validated by leading Yapal and Poe biologists. Traces of these entities have been discovered in a mountain range known as the Appalachians, and the tales surrounding them lead us to believe they were the first true apex predators that humans had to confront. There were others, but this is one of the few still existing on the planet, and we are. Still searching for others, Miss Ricky chuckled while rubbing her temple. Then there is the matter of humans desiring to resurrect some of their ancient land predators, aided by the Yorel breakthroughs that have allowed for the revival of more commonplace animals, such as the Irish elk. This has incensed the humans. There is now news that the Tasmanian tiger has returned to roam the world, and the humans are now setting their sights on the old. Oh no! An optician gasped, clasping his talons to his face. They have been dreaming of this. I have seen the old recordings, said Miss Ricky, raising a hand to interrupt the optician. Humans are prohibited from resurrecting the giant lizards. This issue has already been addressed. Believe me when I say that nearly every citizen of the Confederation has viewed what once inhabited Earth through their historical recordings, and no one is eager to see them return to that planet, or anywhere else for that matter. The room murmured their gratitude that the humans were being restricted to such an extent, but there was also a curious wonder about what else had existed on that planet so long ago. As it stands, Miss Ricky stated loudly to capture everyone's attention, Earth is the most perilous planet known to the Confederation, second only to the Denier home planet, which, as we all know, is a shattered mass of rock due to the actions of humans. While you are permitted to visit Earth, it must be done under the vigilant supervision of the humans to ensure that no one else falls victim to the predators that roam freely across the world. And yes, while it may seem extremely counterintuitive to maintain such, predators are an integral aspect of human culture and their lifestyle, as they embody the role of predators that enable other predators to thrive. It is essential to recognize that this is simply the nature of humanity. They are the apex predators and derive their power from allowing others to exist by their own volition. Grizzly bears do not survive merely because they instill fear in humans. Rather, humans permit their existence because they possess the capability to eradicate them from the face of the earth at any moment. The dominance exhibited by powerful predators like humans gives rise to the notion that Earth is a perilous world. Humans themselves are perceived as a threat that must be approached with acute intelligence to avoid becoming their prey. Fortunately, this interaction remains largely on a micro scale. It is crucial to remember that this is a species that enables other formidable predators to persist, thereby ensuring their own strength and the health of their planet. Their benevolent disposition and culture of camaraderie prevent them from evolving into the next significant adversary to the Confederation. However, it is vital to keep their inherent nature at the forefront of your thoughts. Miss Ricky's desk emitted a soft chime, prompting her to acknowledge that our time is up for today. You are all dismissed. Once the classroom was vacated, Miss Ricky switched off the lights and data screens before proceeding down the lengthy corridors of the secondary space station orbiting Earth. This station was considerably larger, more modern, and regarded as a transit hub and training facility, while the older station was primarily occupied by the Optician for their training in gravity.